Well, joining us now from New Jersey is Jason Greenblatt, the former White House Middle East envoy and author of the book In the Path of Abraham, How Donald Trump Made Peace in the Middle East and How to Stop Joe Biden from Unmaking It. Jason, thanks for joining us. Now, in your book, you do write about your dealings with Qatar, the prospects of it advancing its relations with Israel. Maybe talk about that and relate it to this episode as we're reporting it on i24 News.
Sure, great to be with you. So I do talk about how Qatar, and I like to call them, and Saudi Arabia and hopefully Oman, countries that have not yet signed the Abraham Accords versus that they won't sign the Abraham Accords. I only found them to be thoroughly professional. They do not hate Israel. I'm speaking about today and over the last several years. I'm not speaking about years ago where many countries in the Gulf had different issues going on. But I found them to strongly support the Palestinian people. Obviously, they support all the Palestinian talking points about a Palestinian state, much of which I disagree with and I cover in the book. But I only found them to be highly professional and interested in maintaining calm stability, helping the Palestinians, while at the same time having a reasonable, quiet relationship with Israel. As to this report, I will say that diplomatic sources that I've checked with, non-Israeli, check out what the foreign ministry is saying. My understanding is that the conversations between Qatar and Israel were professional, that they reached an agreement as to how to deal with Israelis who might need assistance in the country. So based on the information that I have, and I think it's a reliable source, I would say Israelis should go, have fun, enjoy the World Cup, visit Doha, see all that there is to see. But mostly, I got to tell you, I'd love to see Israelis be ambassadors, if you will. Show Qatar what Israel's all about, the many great things about Israel and Israelis. This is a tremendous opportunity, and we should seize upon it.
Well, one thing, though, we have seen Saudi Arabia and Qatar is, though, they do prefer, at least at this stage, to keep these kind of talks behind the scenes, even when there's reporting and there are leaks that happen that sort of expose them. Maybe just talk about the need for that discretion and the use that, for example, mediators such as the Trump administration and the officials there played in making these deals happen.
Look, it's a great point, and we have to respect if they want to do it in private and behind closed doors. That's important, so we can either insist that things come out to the surface and potentially get ruined. And I'll tell you, in the White House, one of the reasons we were successful is that we never leaked. So had we leaked, had people been able to leak on us, who knows where the Abraham Accords would be. I don't begrudge the media for wanting the information. What I do begrudge is if people, and I'm not saying this is the case with your source may be correct, I don't know, but when sources leak, you have to question whether they're leaking for their own agenda, whether they really know the full story, why are they leaking? But I would encourage people to always look at the sources with a careful eye. If you had the foreign minister of Qatar or the foreign minister or prime minister of Israel actually saying these things, that's another story. But sometimes leaks are inaccurate or not fully complete. So always look at them with a very, very careful eye.
Right, of course. And of course, it was even mentioned on a report, there are elections in Israel 2 months away, and all leaks have a political motive. Finally, briefly, Jason, you in your book, you sort of urge caution in terms of what expectations of Qatar regarding Israel. What do you think it's going to take for Qatar to take the next step with Israel, go public, for example, with something like this?
I don't think they're ready yet. First of all, we have to see what's happening with the terrible Iran deal. I mean, if the Iran deal is signed the way it's being described, I don't know the details, but that's going to put the region on its back foot. They're going to be incredibly nervous, although Qatar is one of the countries that may be interested in some form of smart Iran deal as opposed to some of the other countries. So we really have to wait to see how that unfolds. I think Qatar is going to want to see some serious progress with the Israeli-Palestinian issue. I don't think the Palestinians are remotely ready for that for two primary reasons. The leadership in Ramallah just is completely unwilling and unable to discuss a realistic deal, a good faith negotiation. And of course, you have the terrorist thugs in Hamas, Iran-funded, Iran-controlled, Iran puppets, essentially, who would have to somehow, we'd have to figure out how to fold Gaza into the deal. So I think we have a ways before Qatar is able to or ready to do it. And even there, I think we need to respect that Qatar has its own challenges. It needs to protect itself, its country, its citizens. And over time, this is why I'm so bullish on Israelis going to the World Cup. This is just a great opportunity in that very complicated, difficult, challenging path of Abraham, if you will. for the countries to develop further and further relationships.
All right, well, we'll see how that develops in November when, of course, the big tournament starts. Jason Greenblatt, thanks for joining us on i24 News.
Thanks for having me.